Everyone, Guoba here with a guide on the Fire Trailblazer. A little late to talk about them, everyone probably already watched longer guides by now, but I want to review everyone, and I have some different thoughts on build stats than other content creators. The Fire Trailblazer is an incredible tank that you can obtain and max out for free. This guide will discuss their stats, abilities, best builds, rotation, and team compositions. Like these guides, I'm doing in-depth guides with research on every unit, so like and maybe consider subscribing. Let's go. At level 1, Fire Trailblazer has a high base HP of 168, a base attack of 81, and a high base defense of 82. Though they do have a pretty low base speed of 95. The energy cost is 120, and as a preservation unit their base taunt value is 150. At level 80, their base HP is 1241, the base attack is 601, and their base defense is 606. This gives them the 6th highest HP in the game right now, as well as the 2nd highest defense in the game, being in between their preservation competition. They have an average base attack, but that's whatever. They are unfortunately one of the slowest in the game, and their energy cost is part of the majority group of characters with a high energy cost of 120. Overall, really good tank stats, speed is a shame, but it doesn't ruin the character. The energy cost is fine as they'll be tanking a lot of hits. Let's move on to the Trailblazer's abilities. They are quite cool and unique compared to the current preservation units we have. Let's start with the talent, as it is a core part of their kit, and all their skills affect it. Treasure of the Architect is their talent. Each time they hit, they gain a stack of Magma Will, up to 8 stacks. When they have at least 4 stacks, their basic attack becomes enhanced and consumes 4 stacks. We'll talk about the enhanced stack just after. That was enough. Every time the Trailblazer uses any ability, they'll apply a 2-turn team-wide shield that scales on a percentage of their defense plus a flat value. While scaling is pretty low, especially compared to the other preservation units, you can proc it so easily, and by using Fire MC in a smart way, you can gain so much value out of these shields. This also means you don't have to use any skill points to apply shields for your whole team. So the basic attack is Ice Breaking Light. Will do a standard amount of fire damage to a single enemy, and will also generate 1 stack of their Magma Wheel. This will do 30 toughness damage, regenerate 1 skill point, as well as 20 energy. The enhanced base attack is now a blast type attack, meaning they will now do a large amount of fire damage to a single enemy and less damage to adjacent enemies. This will consume 4 stacks of Magma Wheel. This will do 60 toughness damage to the main target, 30 to adjacent targets. This will also regenerate 1 skill point, as well as 20 energy. Their skill is Ever Burning Amber. It will increase the Trailblazer's damage reduction by a very large percent, and it will generate 1 stack of Magma Wheel. On top of that, it will have a 100% base chance to taunt all enemies for 1 turn. This will regenerate 30 energy. So this taunt debuff that they apply on enemies right now is the only way in the game of completely redirecting enemies' attacks. Aggro modifiers like March 7's shield don't ensure 100% chance of being hit, but this taunt debuff from Fire MC will, as long as it hits. However, it's not needed every turn. It should more be used to save allies in clutch situations, or if they're being targeted by a lock-on skill, as this will redirect the enemy's attacks regardless of lock-on, as they show in the tutorial. Their ultimate is War Flaming Lance. It will do a nice amount of attack percent scaling fire damage, as well as a large amount of defense percent scaling fire damage to all enemies on the field. Not only that, it will enhance the next basic attack regardless of Magma Will stacks. If you have 4 stacks or above, it will not cost you Magma Will to use your enhanced basic attack next turn. This will do 60 toughness damage to all enemies and refund 5 energy. This ultimate is incredible and will let them double dip in offensive damage stats. As you'll be building up defense percent for shielding, you can get quite nice damage. The free enhanced attack is a great bonus. Since an ultimate can be used whenever, this can be really OP to abuse the talent shielding, as we'll see in the rotation section. Finally, their technique is Call of the Guardian. At the start of battle, they'll gain a 1-turn shield that scales on a decent percent of their def percent, plus a nice amount of flat shielding. The technique is alright, it can be stacked with other techniques, but the shield isn't really necessary. YMC's first trace passive is the Strong Defense the Weak. After using their skill, the damage taken by all allies reduces by 15% for 1 turn. Now all allies includes the YMC themselves, turning their skill into a 65% damage reduction to themselves at max level. YMC won't be taking damage. The team-wide damage reduction is immensely powerful, so on those turns where you want to use a skill, you'll get a great additional benefit in case the taunt fails. This also gives you a new use of your skill, now helping to mitigate large AoE damage before it strikes. Their second trace passive is Unwavering Gallantry, and they will restore their HP by 5% of their max HP every enhanced base attack. Now you should have a pretty good, if not 100% uptime on this enhanced attack, so every turn will result in 5% max HP healing, which is pretty insane since they won't even take that much damage with the shielding and damage reduction. Their final trace passive is Action Beats Overthinking. When they start the turn with the shield, they'll increase their attack by 15% for that turn, and regenerate an additional 5 energy. Also, it may not come up every turn, this buff is amazing and can cycle ultimates crazy fast on top of a very cool attack boost. It will benefit their already nice damage for a tank. Their trace bonuses are in defense percent of course, which we love, HP percent, which we love as well, and attack percent, which honestly isn't that bad. You should prioritize leveling their talent before anything else. Their skill should be leveled last. Now, since the MC is the MC, all their Eidolons can be gained for free, which is pretty crazy. As a recording, we are only able to get up to E5, but that's already pretty good. So since they can get all Eidolons, we'll consider all these to be in their base kit, which makes for a very OP power level. Their first Eidolon, Earth-Shaking Resonance, buffs their basic attacks. On their standard basic attack, they'll do additional damage equal to 25% of the defense. On their enhanced basics, they'll deal double that, for extra damage, and makes their basics, much like the ultimate, double dip in offensive scaling. Their second Eidolon is Time-Defying Tenacity. The shield applied from their talent will now block additional damage. At level 10 talent, this is essentially a 30% shielding increase, which with late game defense stats will be a huge increase. Amazing Eidolon. Their third and fifth Eidolons are also nice to have and also free. It will scale the damage, shielding, and damage reduction yet again. Their fourth Eidolon, Nation Building Oath, will let them immediately gain 4 stacks of Magma Will at the beginning of the battle. So you have your enhanced attack available at the start of every fight. This means more damage and more toughness damage for free. Great for breaking first waves full of fire weakness targets. Their final Eidolon is City Forging Bulwarks. We can't get this quite yet, perhaps in 1.1 story, but it will give the Trailblazer a 10% def increase every time they use an enhanced attack or ultimate up to 3 times. This is an insane buff, and I keep saying the word insane, but it's true. 30% easily stackable def percent increases, no joke, and will yet again buff their damage and their shielding by a large amount. Summarize, Fire Trailblazer blows Physical Trailblazer out of the park in terms of value. Now, that doesn't mean Physical Trailblazer is useless, but Fire Trailblazer is much more useful right now. They're an amazing supportive unit with average but consistent shields for your whole team at no skill point cost. They have the only pure taunt skill in the game right now, a set of free Eidolons and free Ascensions. Leveling them up will benefit their future and past paths too. They have dual scaling and great damage for a supportive unit, and their break power is very strong. The only downside is Shepherd and March of Greater Shields, but they can't get them as easily as the Trailblazer. Trailblazer is a must build unit, and you'll definitely have them built by now anyway. The only way their value will decrease is if their next path is OP, but even then you'll swap depending on the content. For their builds, you must always go the Knight of Purity Palace set. The 2-piece is great, the defense percent is lovely, but the 4-piece is the only source of shield bonus percent in the game right now, so it's a must have for any preservation unit. The 20% shield bonus will increase both the base percentage and flat bonus. For early game sets, you can go the Musketeer or Thief sets, both are fine. Now for the 2-piece, some would argue that Fleet of the Ages is great, and it is. I believe Belobog of the Architects to be best at all times. Extra defense is already great, but hitting 50% effect hit rate will result in an additional 15% defense. So after doing some additional calculations, here are the values of the sets in subset values for the team. Fleet of the Ages will give you 3 HP% subs, great for tankiness, doesn't boost damage or shielding. The 8% attack buff is 2 attack percent subs for your whole team, only benefiting really your DPS, so 1 to 2 units. This means you get about 5 to 7 substats in value. We look at the Belobog set, we get an immediate 15% def increase, equal to 3 to 4 def percent subs, which will always benefit the whole team. Only that we get another 15% def increase on hitting 50% effect hit rate. Now for some reason, early guides and very popular guides, people completely disregarded hitting this effect hit rate threshold. They said to just put the T-piece on, and you can do that. I think hitting the threshold is worth it. Now as people are finally seeing how amazing speed is, hopefully they see that effect hit rate and effect resistance shouldn't be disregarded as well. So to hit the 50% effect hit rate condition, we need 13 effect hit rate subs. This will give us 50% effect hit rate on average, and now give us the extra 15% defense. 13 defense percent subs instead of the effect hit rate will give 63% defense. Not only do we get a net gain of 1 substat in value, we also get 50% effect hit rate, which is really useful. Let's see why. Memory of Chaos, we're already facing level 70s at the early stages. Effect hit rate becomes more important the higher the enemy level. Using your skill helps with the damage resistance of course, but the taunt is very useful too, as already we have 2 lock-on skills in the first 2 floors. At level 70, these enemies have 30% effect resistance, so our probability of taunting without any hit rate is 70%. With 50% effect hit rate, we get a 105% chance of taunting. Versus bosses with 50% crowd control res, which I'm assuming affects taunt, this value goes from 35% with 0 effect hit rate to 53% with 50 effect hit rate. Effect hit rate will become even more valuable as enemies will have high effect resistance as we go on. So to summarize, Knight 4-piece. For 2-piece if you want, you can still go the Fleet set. I prefer Belobog. Another option is to go Belobog and not hit the 50 hit rate condition, but I've given you the mouse, you can do what you like with it. Main stats, you'll be going defense percent chest, speed boots, def percent planesphare, and for your rope you can go NG rope or defense percent. Both are really good. NG rope allows for more ultimates, as we'll see in the rotation section, and since you can use ultimates whenever, it allows for a freer talent utilization, and you can get your shields up at the right moments easier. Defense percent isn't a bad option, it's what you prefer through your experience in gameplay. Substats, here's my ranking from most valuable to least valuable. Now for light cones, you have so many great options already in the preservation path. For best in slot, Moment of Victory will come out ahead, with a 24% defense increase up to an easily obtainable 48% defense increase and a 24% effect hit rate buff. This light cone is already great. It also increases your aggro modifier by 100%, increasing your probability of being hit in a standard free-to-play team to 54% without any additional bonuses. Effect hit rate is also nice for reducing substat costs of Belobog's conditional buff. Another amazing option is the free-to-play texture memories. The 16% effect resistance is hugely underrated and very strong. Not only that, they'll receive a pretty much permanent 24% damage reduction, as again this went under the effect of a shield. Not only that, if they are attacked and have no shield, they gain a 32% max HP scaling shield for 2 turns on a 3-turn cooldown. The very overload light cone and completely free. Best free to play option. This will also help trigger their third trace passive, as they'll probably always have a shield up at the start of their turn now. Day 1 of my new life and Lando's choice of great gacha options, providing either a team-wide damage reduction or a 200% aggro modifier, regardless of taunt. It will stop your allies being hit a lot. It's up to you what you prefer. Kind of the universal market and This Is Me are fun, but not optimal, as they are pure damage options. Amber is amazing for a 3-star light gun, and defense is actually used sometimes at endgame when you have no healer option. Now, for rotations, unless you need to save your team before a big attack, or want to redirect a lock-on, you won't be using your skill that much. You will be assuming you only basic attack. If you skill twice, it counts with 3 basics worth of energy, so you'll cycle turn faster if you skill twice in these rotations. Anyway, at 6 turns of basics, you'll get your ultimate back with no other conditions. With an energy rope, this is reduced to 5 turns of basics. If you get hit by a small enemy only once a turn, which is pretty likely, you usually gain more than 5 energy and be hit more than once, but whatever. This reduces the rotation to 5 turns of basics, 4 turns with an energy rope. If you get hit by a large enemy, so 10 to 15 energy per hit, this will reduce the rotation to 4 turns of basics, 3 turns with an energy rope. You get a point, they cycle very fast. Now that's how you use basics and skills, but you don't always want to use your ultimate when it comes up. Where you want to use your ultimate is to separate instances of damage. So if a large boss just hit your whole team and is about to go again, using your ultimate will allow you to gain your shield back up without taking a turn. This is why this talent-based shield is so OP. You can decide whenever you want to give your whole team a nice shield through your ultimate. This is also why an energy rope can make your life easier. Even if you don't want to use your ultimate every time it's up, having it more times than not can give you more liberal use of your talent. In team compositions, you'll want them in every team. In any content, a preservation unit is pretty much a must-have. In split content, if you're versus fire weakness enemies, it's better to put them on that team as they have high toughness damage. For a free-to-play team, we have Fire MC, Natasha, Dan Heng, and Serval, a great baseline of damage, with AoE and single target damage, and a 4-element split. Remember to put Fire MC on the leftmost or rightmost slot, and then a tanky unit next to them, or an energy greedy one to get more energy from AoE hits. But just be careful. For a pure whale team, you can go Fire MC, Bailu, Sealer, and Bronya. Anyway, that's all for Fire MC. Thanks for watching. Have a good day.